Is this what we're supposed to do?
Yeah, this is just exactly right. That little green dot right there,
Yeah.
that's what you want to kind of look at. That's where the camera is.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
look at that, you're making eye contact.
Okay.
And we've already started, so you're just joining in.
Oh. We're not cutting this
No,
part?
no.
I
This
thought
is
we could
real.
edit. Okay.
Nope.
We're on.
Not editing a darn
All right.
thing.
Okay.
So, hey everybody, this is John Ortberg, and I am sad for anybody in the world who does not have Barbara Ortberg Harrison as a sister. We grew up together. She was my first best friend. And I have never known the world without her in it. I identified with her so thoroughly that when I was a little kid, if you asked me my name, because she was Barbara Lynn Ortberg, I would have told you I'm John Lynn Carl Lynn Ortberg Jr.
Yeah.
And that is a name that still comes
We still say that.
quickly. And yeah, we washed dishes together, sang, went to school, just did life.
Yeah.
And over these last couple of years, when things were so difficult for me and Nance and our family, I don't know if I could have made it without Barb. She would just drop everything and come on up and be with us and just be like this giant human comforter and hope. And if we needed her to stay longer, she would stay longer. And so thank you for coming on today.
It's fun, I think. I didn't know I was on when I was on, but I'm glad to be here. Yes. And my brother made me Swedish pancakes this morning, so bribed me to do it.
I did. Yep. And as you can already tell, Barb has one of the great laughs in the world, and has been through a hard journey on her own. So I thought I would read one little thing from this book, Renovation of the Heart, and then love to talk with you about it and get your thoughts on it, because it's been
You
part
can
of
do that.
your journey. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Dallas writes about ideas in this chapter on the mind, and in page 100 he says the single most important thing in our mind is our idea of God and the associated images. That's the single most important thing in our mind, our idea of God, the associated images. And then he quotes A.W. Tozer, that our idea of God corresponds as nearly as possible to the true being of God is of immense importance to us. This is so interesting. Compared with our actual thoughts about him, our creedal statements are of little consequence. You know, like we might have things that we think we're supposed to believe, say the right thing, but our actual thoughts, our real idea of God may be buried under the rubbish of conventional religious notions, may require an intelligent and vigorous search before it is finally unearthed and exposed for what it is, only after an ordeal of painful self-probing are we likely to discover what we actually believe about God.
Wow.
So, Barb, I would love for you just to reflect on that and share anything you want to about your journey with it.
That is so my journey for 66 years. And
wait, you're 2 years older than me?
Wow. For 6 weeks. Not long. When he was little, I always loved being 2 years older than him, and he would say, there'll come a day when you won't like that. And I think, no, we'll never be that old. And
now we are.
We are, yeah. I grew up in a, with John, of course. Don't make me laugh. We went to the same church.
There's a shocker.
We went to the same church, yeah. And I've thought a lot the last year or year and a half that one of the Sunday school songs that we sang, John could sing it with me if he wanted to, but it was "Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little hands, where you, how you act. Be careful, little feet, where you go, because the Father up above is looking down in love. So be careful." And I realized I have been careful with God my whole life, and I'm a people pleaser. And I love giving and serving, but Any strength taken to an extreme is a weakness, and it really was my addiction also. It was the way that I felt good about myself, and it was what I did when I felt anxious about something. And a year and a half ago, I just hit a wall where I couldn't give anymore. And I didn't know who I was if I couldn't give. And God gave me the gift of a depression. In fact, I remember saying to him, I just wish I could have a year sabbatical, a year off. Nancy called it, we were going to call it the year of me, and I was going to take a year. And my counselor at the time said, honey, I'd be happy if you took half a day once a month. You're not going to take a year.
Yeah.
And God gave me a year, but it was in the form of a depression because I did not have the ability to give up the addiction in myself of giving. And what happened was when I couldn't give, the voice that I've been trying to quiet all my life got so much louder, and I found out what I really thought God was saying to me. And I would sometimes have to go in a closet and make a little bed in there and stay for a day. Sometimes I slept in there to try to hear God's voice and my own voice instead of my should voice and my voice of what other people might want from me. And the voice got so loud, and I would write down what this voice in my head was saying to me, and it was always things like, you should do more, don't be selfish, don't disappoint anybody, don't let anybody down, why aren't you giving more, why aren't you doing more? It was always not enough, not enough, that voice. And I think the voice hadn't been that strong in my head because I always served the voice. I did what the voice told me, and so then it didn't have to be loud. Now when I couldn't give anymore, the voice just overwhelmed me. And
no, it would be tricky because those messages kind of sound like
they're
God.
very
Give,
spiritual.
serve, like that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, like how could I say that's not God? So I started to write down all the things I was thinking, and one day it hit me, I have thought that voice was God. And until it got so loud that it was idiotic, ridiculous to think it was God, when it was soft enough, it was like, yeah, God is nudging me. God is, he's telling me to think of others. He's telling me to do all those good things. And I started to, a friend of mine said, why don't you ask God what he thinks of the voice? And so when I would have those thoughts and I'd write them down and I'd say, God, are you saying these things to me? And I learned from a book that John recommended, the Ignatian Adventure. At the time, I really couldn't even read anything for that year. I just would be by myself.
And you're a reader normally.
Yeah, that's how I solve something, is I read something about it. And I just needed to hear my own voice and God's. And I learned over and over again that those words weren't God's. And the way I could tell, it wasn't like he said something verbally to me, but when I would think, God, I think these might not be your words, I would get this deep peace, like my whole body, my bones would just sink. I would feel like I can't even turn over, I can't move. I am so deeply at peace. And then when I'd start thinking again, yeah, but maybe you think I'm being selfish, I would get disturbances inside. Yeah. And I started to, I felt like what God did was upside down, inside out of everything I've ever thought was the right way to live. And to start to hear the voice of God took great courage for me, because I kept thinking, he's going to be mad at me. If I think this, I'm going to disappoint him if I think I can just rest. And he taught me to fast from the very thing, talking about Lent and fasting and feasting, to fast from the very thing that I thought he was telling me to do, which was to give to others. And for a whole year, I really didn't give anything to anybody. I didn't even want to talk on the phone. I wanted to be alone. Something so deep in me was healing. And then, so he had me fast from giving, from serving others, so that I could find out the false voice was not him. That was never his voice. And then he taught me to feast on the very things I thought I should fast from, like to eat. I enjoyed it a little too much. And sleeping, I would take naps every day. I would take care of myself. And he taught me to feast on the very things that I'd spent a lifetime thinking I shouldn't indulge in. And I learned to rewrite my little be careful song that it starts with the Father up above is looking down in love. So be careless. Don't have any care about what you see, little eyes, or where you go, little feet. Be careless, because your Father up above is looking down in love. And it was the most painful year of my life, and it was the most rich year of my life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I still have to struggle every day, well, not every day, but many days, with hearing the old voice and thinking, okay, I recognize my insides are getting churned up instead of more relaxed. And from the book, I learned to ask the question, if I continue thinking this way, will it lead me closer to God or further from God? And to bring him my emotions, which I think I hadn't done. I think I just judged my emotions, but I had not been completely honest with God. I'd been careful with him, and I started being careless, not having a care about what I said to him. And I thought I had a great handle on grace and who God was, and I knew exactly what Dallas said. I knew it in my head what was the right way, but that wasn't what was happening inside of me. And I'd spent a lifetime trying to please him and be careful with him, and he said, instead, feast and be careless. And what a relief. I feel like I have my joy back, and I don't live with this sense of I should all the time.
Well, it's killing me. This it feels like it was like 2 minutes, and we got to stop. You do this again sometime with me?
I'd love to.
You might just think today about what's the voice inside you that you're most likely to confuse and think is God when it's really not God.
Yeah.
And what might God be calling you to fast from, and what might God be calling you to feast on in this season that might not look like what people think is spiritual.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Too bad that you don't get to have Barbie as your sister.